All right, fantastic. So I had a question for you, Mr. Ali. Um,
Habibi, don't make it difficult for me, inshallah.
um, you know how Abraham in Genesis, Yahweh said to him that he would be given a great nation?
Yes.
Yeah. And the basic response, you've heard the basic response that Muslims give and the counter arguments that the Christians have, but I just wanted you to maybe sort of expand on that from your perspective.
Oof. Wallahi, there is too much to say about this. You see, this promise is given in multiple chapters of the book of Genesis, chapter 12, chapter 15, chapter 17, and on, okay? The first time which he's getting the promise is giving him a land, from this land to this land, right? From the Nile to the Euphrates. Your descendants will be like the stars, okay? These Jews and Christians come to us and say, yes, it is talking about Isaac and Israelites. Hey, it is talking to Abraham and his descendants after him. What do you mean only Isaac? Okay, but let's see. Akhi, think about it. This land which is promised to them, from the Nile to the Euphrates, right? Did Israelite get that? Was there anywhere in the history of mankind when Israelites got the whole land from the Nile to the Euphrates?
No.
No, right? But in the same Bible, it is talking to them and it says to them, this land you should not take because this is for Edom. Or this land you should not get, this is for Esau. And in the book of Joshua, it's telling them, Joshua, they got all the land that was promised to them. Think about this. So they got the promised land, all of it, which was promised to them. Okay? That means this whole promise is not exclusive to Isaac or the children of Israel.
Sorry.
This is very important. So there is a promise given to Abraham and his descendants after him.
Yep.
And if you read it, many descendants which are not Israelite got the land. As you know, Nile to the Euphrates was never as a whole to Israelites. And the text is talking in Deuteronomy, this land, which is part of the promised land, it says to them, you shall not take it because this is for Edom. Or the other land, which is also in the promise of Genesis 12, it says you should not take this one because this is for Esau. You see, these are not Israelites, yet they are included in the promise which was given. Do you understand this? This is very important. So the land is promised to the children of Abraham, the whole seed after him, and we see many of the seed who are not Israelites got portions of the land, which means this is a collective promise to Abraham, and the seed after him is not only to the Jews. And the book of Joshua, it says they got all the land which was promised to them. But Nile to the Euphrates, it was not, which means this promise of Genesis 12 is a collective promise to whole children of his. Okay? In Genesis 17, at the start, it is talking about the covenant which is given to Abraham and his descendants. Akhi, wallahi, go read Genesis chapter 17, verse 1. You can go all through it. When the promise is given to Abraham at the first start, there is no such a thing as Isaac. Isaac didn't even exist yet. So the only seed which Abraham thought of at the time of the giving of the covenant cannot be anyone else except Ishmael. It cannot be. Isaac was not even born yet. The promise comes later on in the chapter of a born of a future son. At this point, no Isaac. Only seed is Ishmael. Okay? So he goes on in verse 18 or 19. Abraham does a dua. He does a supplication to God. And it says, may Ishmael live before thee. And the answer is yes. About Abraham, about Ishmael, I have heard you. And I will make him to a great nation. 12 princes he shall give him, but not. It goes on and on. Okay? Akhi, this is a promise which is given multiple times. These Christians say yes. Because you see, as you see today, the children of Ishmael are big, are great in numbers. This is what it means. Okay? Akhi, let me read you something, and I'll go inshallah to sources. This promise which was given into Ishmael, okay? We get to the interpretation, what it means. I'm just talking about the fulfillment of it. The Jews say it is fulfilled when? With the coming of Islam. Akhi, so Abraham is doing supplication to God, to his God. May Ishmael live before thee. And I get to the commentators, what does it mean? Ishmael may live before thee. What does it mean? Okay? And they go on that God accepts it. And it says, I will make him to a great nation. And this prophecy is fulfilled with coming of Islam. Let me read you. This is from Chumash commentary on these verses. It says, Ishmael's offspring will enjoy a period of ascendancy, but ultimately they will dissipate like clouds. This is what Rashi said. Okay? We see from the prophecy in this verse, which I was talking about, that 2,337 years elapsed before the Arabs, Ishmael's descendants, became a great nation with the rise of Islam in the 7th century.
Wow.
You see that? So they say Islam fulfilled the promise which was given by God of Abraham to Abraham and to his son. But Akhi, let's see what they say after that. Listen. Wallahi, this is very important. Listen. They say, we, the descendants of Isaac, for whom the fulfillment of promise made to us is delayed due to our sins, should surely anticipate the fulfillment of God's promise and not despair. Okay, let me explain what they say. They say Ishmael got a promise, and coming of Islam fulfilled that promise. So we Jews who still are waiting for the fulfillment of promise because it is delayed based on our sin should look at these Ishmaelites and see that their promise was fulfilled, that we still have hope that even our prophecy will be fulfilled. Akhi, wallahi, they are using the fulfillment of the prophecy of Ishmael, which is Islam according to them, for motivation that God will fulfill their promises to them. Could you imagine that? What does the Quran say? They can find the unlettered prophet in the scriptures which they have in their hand. Who will find him? The people who have the scriptures. According to the last verse of Surah Ibrahim, Quran does another prophecy. Quran says to them, do they say that you are not a prophet? As they do today. You see these Christians coming up with all of this nonsense at them. Do they say he's not a prophet? The Quran says enough for us is Allah and the people who have knowledge of the scriptures. So Quran says them people will find them in the scriptures which they have. Quran says who are these people who will find them? People with knowledge of scriptures. Here in Chumash commentary on the verses of their own scriptures, they be telling us Islam was the fulfillment of the prophecy which was given to Ishmael. So we Jews should look at that and be still motivated that even our prophecy in the future will come in fulfilling. Do you see that?
Crazy, bro.
Wallahi, I dare any Christian to come with any commentary that any Jew ever said. You see, Christianity is fulfillment of the prophecy which was given to Isaac. I dare them, yet these people are saying that. You see that, Akhi? These Jews have a concept which is called Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah, which means the house of idolatry. This is how they call Christianity, the children of Edom and whatnot. Not one time do they use Christianity about fulfilling of a good promise. They use it for a bad promise. You see, about the dream of Daniel, Ibn and Semmy brother knows this, about these horns, the nation of Persia. One of them, they say is Christianity. Wallahi, Rashi in his commentary says, oh, is in 1400, this will come to end and whatnot. The same commentary on Genesis chapter 17, verse 20, akhi, read exactly what I wrote you. They say historical records that this prophecy came true after a delay more than 2,000 years. Abraham was circumcised in the year 2047, they say, according to Sedar Hadorat. And Mohammedan faith originated in the 4,000, they say, exactly more about 2,000 years later. This delay was not due to sins of the original Ishmaelites. Do you hear that? The Christians of today go to the book of Galatians, they be telling us Ishmael is this, Ishmael is that, is illegitimate, is this, is that. Wallahi, these people are very weird. Yet, these people say this delay was not due to the sins of the original Ishmaelite. They had been looking forward to the fulfillment of the prophecy for all these years. So they said, even the Ishmaelite, even they had faith. They were still waiting for the fulfillment of this prophecy. They say, we lost our independence due to our sins. You see that? The Jews saying this Ishmaelite didn't do sins, yet we did. They got their promise and fulfilling of it. We didn't. Do you see that? They say God set a time of 1305 years. According to Daniel, I told you 14th century. According to Daniel, until our Redeemer would come. Akhi, Rashi said, oh, this Redeemer of Daniel, who is Messiah, he will come in the year 1400. But Rashi, he died in the 11th century, in the 12th century. Now, the most interesting thing is, as Rashi had said in the year 1300, Akhi, do you know what happened?
No.
Babkes, nothing happened. You see, Rashi told them in the 14th century, Christ will come based on his methodology of understanding Daniel. Yet Rashi himself died already before that. And we who have been through the 14th century, we see nothing happened. So they're talking about the Christ coming then was false. Yet fulfillment of Ishmael and Islam was true. You see that?
That's
But
wild,
Akhi,
man.
the most important thing is this. Let me read you something. I will maintain my covenant between me and you and your offspring to come, an everlasting covenant through the ages, to be God to you and to your descendants. You see, the promise which was fulfilled in Ishmaelites with coming of Islam is what? That God will be the God to him and to his descendants. Rashi's commentary says, I will establish my covenant. And this covenant is to be their God. So when they say this Ishmaelite God, the fulfillment of the prophecy of Islam, they are saying the God of Abraham became their God. You see that? And I was talking about the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam.
Yeah,
According to
earlier in the
them,
beginning.
he said that Ishmael may live before thee. Akhi, what does it mean? Rashi says this, live before thee, live in reverence to thee, similar in the sense of Genesis chapter 17, verse 1, which in Onkelos, which is the Targum, renders as worship me. So when Abraham is doing this supplication of Ishmael, he's asking God, please let Ishmael be one of your worshippers. And the next verse says, yes, as Rashi says, this was the fulfillment that the God of Abraham became their God. This is only with advance of Islam, Akhi. And they admit it. So, Akhi, think about it. These Christians today come to us, oh, tell me, where do we find Muhammad in the Bible? I have been reading the Bible for 20 years. Nowhere have I seen Muhammad in there. Hey, Quran says these people will find him in the scriptures, who, the knowledgeable amongst them, who Abdullah bin Salam, for example, radiallahu anhu, the knowledgeable people amongst them about this Chumash commentary, the knowledgeable about people amongst them, they be saying these Ishmaelites and the fulfilling of the promise to them should be a motivation to us. You see that they are using Islam for their own religion, which means what, akhi? Islam already has got its fulfillment of promises, and the Jews still are waiting for it. Rashi's at 14th century, nothing happened. They really should come and accept the fulfillment of the prophecy, which they accept. They should accept it and be one of these Ishmaelites, as they say. But akhi Ibn, you know this. As soon as we talk to these Christians, we say, you see, Abraham shall give a great nation to his children. What do they say what this great nation means? They use the James White argument. Come to say, yes, but does not mean nothing. It only means they are great in numbers. James White, as ignorant as he is, you see, akhi, he's proud. He says, oh, the Yahweh of the Bible, even called the pagan Romans a great nation. See, they are using that. They are saying even great nation, the promise which was given to Ishmael according to us, is the same word as used for Romans, which are polytheistic. So great nations, that only means numbers. Only means numbers, they say. Okay, even the numbers, man, according to you, the descendants of Isaac are 15 million. 15 million. There are Islamic cities who have more inhabitants than 15 millions. What do you mean great nation is numbers? If great nation, the promise to Abraham is great nation by numbers, only Ishmaelite fulfill this. They think they say great number, that means something, but it doesn't mean nothing. Akhi, do you have the Bible with you, Akhi Ahmed? Let's see what this great nation promise is. According to the Bible, I accept numbers, sure. I accept that. Great nation, numbers, great numbers, no issue with that. But is it only great numbers, or is it also in faith, the greatest faith that makes a nation a great nation? Do you have the Bible with you, Akhi? Exodus 32, verses 8 to 10. Could you read that?
Verses 8 to 10, as follows. They have been quick to turn away from what I commanded them, and have made themselves an idol cast into the shape of a calf. They have bowed down to it and sacrificed to it, and have said, These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt. I have seen these people, the Lord said to Moses, and they are a stiff-necked people. Now leave me alone, so that my anger may burn against them, and that I may destroy them, and I will make you into a great nation.
You see, Akhi, a great nation here is contradictory to idol worship. It says these people, these Jews, who left you and went to idol worship, let me deal with them, and I will make you, to Moses, into a great nation who does not do idolatry and whatnot.
Meaning it's referring to faith.
But it will become more clearer, Akhi. It will become more clearer. So one of the things, the criteria for a great nation is what? Purging idolatry. This is belief, purging idolatry. Right, Akhi?
Mm-hmm.
The Bible says that. But read now Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 6 to 8. Right, Akhi Ibn? They've been telling us great nation is always in numbers.
Right, yes,
Yet,
100%.
Here, great nation is referred into contradiction to what is idolatry.
This is wild, bro. Verses 6 to 8, yeah?
Yes.
Observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations, who will hear about all the decrees and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. What other nation is so great as to have their gods near them, the way the Lord our God is near us whenever we pray to him? And what other nation is so great Do you want me to
Akhi, you
finish
see
at
that?
7?
No, it was good. What you read was beautiful. It is talking about great nation. It says you are a great nation because of what? Because of God and his wisdom and his rules and regulations. You saw that. So great nation is purging idolatry, purging idols, right? These images which they had, purging that. This will make you great. And other nations who don't have all of these mitzvot or rulings and regulations and not the commandment of God are not great as you, which means a great nation is talking about spirituality, who the God is, what the wisdom of God, and purging idolatry. This was the promise which was given to Ishmael, to purge them from idolatry, to give them laws, to give them rules. And the Chumash commentary already said that this happened with the advent of Islam. You see, Akhi? So when they are talking about a great nation, they say numbers, numbers, numbers. Sure, nobody has issue with that. Let's go with double entendre. We have numbers, but the saying Bible is defining what. Yes, Akhi?
Dual fulfillment, numbers and purging idolatry and being faithful to God and God alone.
Either way, wallahi, if it is numbers, the children of Ishmael are more in numbers than Isaac. Right? So if they say numbers, sure, we got the prophecy. It is as much as the stars, they say. How is 15 million as much as the stars when we have billions of Muslims? Right?
SubhanAllah.
But, Akhi, this is maybe for another time. I want to get the brothers into this. In the book of Galatians, chapter 3 and 4, they should go and read it. Paul is telling them, no, the great promise was not the Jews. He's telling them, no, it's not Jews. He says the Jews are children of Hagar. Hey, what do you mean? He says there are children of Hagar from Arabia. Hey, Arabia, what do you mean? He says, no, the seed is only singular, which refers to one seed, not the nations. These nations, wallahi, he says that. Their discretions come and tell us. And he says, I'm speaking in human terms. So it's not a spirituality, it's not a level of understanding, nothing. He says, I speak in a human understanding. And he says, these children are the children of Hagar. Who? The Jews. And that seed is Jesus. And whoever follows Jesus, these pagans. Hey! Wallah, he says that these pagans are the promised seed to Abraham. These Jews are not. This is what they say. Yet they say about Islam, the same Jews say about Islam. Islam fulfilled the prophecy which was given to Abraham and to Ishmael. And the Jews who have not our prophecy fulfilled yet should not be despaired and look at these Ishmaelites and have hope that even our prophecy would be fulfilled. You see that?
That's right.
But sorry, Akhi, if I went wrong. Brothers, please get on this.
Essentially, Abraham, right? Abraham was obviously made a prayer. That prayer was essentially, God accepted that prayer and he said, you'd be given a great nation, and these are the lands that you'd be given. These lands specifically were to a multitude of, call it clans or tribes or lineage from Abraham himself, right? And so from there, when you look at Ishmael, when you're mentioning that he was made into a great nation based on the commentaries that you actually mentioned, that the Ishmaelites are quote unquote the Mohammedans or the fulfillment of this, and we should be patient because these guys followed the law and followed the guidance, and that's why they've been given a great nation. We too, because we're sinful people, we just got to wait it out and we got to turn around before it gets fulfilled. But they're recognizing the fact that this prophecy was referring to the Ishmaelites, i.e., the Muslimin, right? And this was fulfilled within the prophetic tradition. And then, so from there, you said, a lot of Christians, the counterclaim that they make is numbers is just referring to great people. The Greeks and the Romans were great people, so on and so forth. And so you gave a couple of references in Deuteronomy and Exodus, referring to the fact that a great nation is something not numbers-based. It's based on the fact that they followed God's laws and they worship gods and they purged idol worshippers, right? And so... And so that's what it refers to from a Tanakhi or from a Torah perspective, is the fact that they that a great nation would be one that purges idol worship, that only worships God and God alone. Right?
Ali, do you want to say anything else with regards to this specific prophecy?
Wallahi, as you know, there is so much to say. They always run. Wallahi, in chapter 17, they always go to verse 21 for some reason. They say, oh, you see, the covenant is with Isaac. As if that means something, inshallah. I didn't want to make it too long. But Akhi, on this point about the great nation, about the fulfillment of the prophecy which was given to Ishmael, according to the Jews, right? And the Quran says they will find him in their own scriptures which they have with them. Who? The scholars of them. And we have here a proof that they have found it. But if you can add something to it, inshallah.
Yeah, perhaps, Ahmed, if you can go to Genesis chapter 16.
Yep.
And then to verses 10 to, let's say, 15. It's fine.
Okay, cool. 10 to 15. Okay, 10 to the end then. Okay. The angel added, I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count. The angel of the Lord also said to her, you are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ismael, for the Lord has heard your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hands against him, and he will live in hostility towards all his brothers. She gave this name to the Lord, who spoke to her, You are the God who sees me. For she said, I have now seen the one who sees me. That is why the well was called Bi Lahai Roi. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael.
So this is talking about the birth of Ishmael, right? The prophet Ismail, alayhi salam. Now, we all know with regards to verse 12 that he's been called, at least in this translation, which is based on the Masoretic text, that he's called a wild donkey of a man, right? Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. In the Septuagint, it says an uncivilized man. But in the Samaritan Pentateuch, it actually says a fruitful man. Yeah, so you see a certain evolution taking place with regards to, first of all, it's saying that he will be a fruitful man. Then going over to the Septuagint, which says that he will be a barbaric man or uncivilized, right? And then on and on it goes. Eventually, we arrive to the Masoretic text, which says that he will be a wild donkey of a man. But anyway, we've made that clear multiple times. So I want to go over to verse 14. Verse 14, Ahmed, can you read it again?
That is why the well was called Bir Lahai Roi. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered.
Right. So it references a specific place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is interesting is that if you actually go over and take a look at the rabbis and how they understood and to interpret this verse, for example, the great rabbi Abraham ibn Ezra, with regards to Genesis chapter 16, verse 14, more specifically about the part Be'er Lahai Roi, he actually says that this is the place, and I can send you the screenshot, perhaps you can show it in a minute.
Yeah.
That he actually says that this refers to a specific place, and you're going to read where it is specifically, that indicates a specific point, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'll send you the screenshot. 1 second.
Already did.
Building up suspense.
Oh, you did?
Bro.
Okay. Go ahead if you can read that.
Okay. So this is okay. Ibn Ezra says, the name of this well at the time he lived was called Zamum. He doubtless means Zamzam, a well near Mecca, which the Arabs say is the well by which Hagar sat down with Ishmael and where she was comforted by the angel.
So what is it referencing?
Zamzam. Mecca.
Exactly. So it's Mecca, exactly. If you can, Ali, by the way, did you send the other screenshots as well? Or just this one?
Just this one, Akhi. Maybe you can send the other ones.
Oh, I'm going to send the other one. There's also another rabbi. 1 second, I'll send you this. 1 second.
You see, this was from a Gil's commentary. This is a Christian commentary about this, who are quoting the exegetical Jews before that. And they said this is Zamzam in Mecca. You see that? So, do they found him in the scriptures which they have in their own hand, as Surah 7 says? You see, we have even the location. We have even the name. But Akhi Semmy, go ahead. Let's see what the rabbis are telling us.
Exactly. Jazakallah khairan. It's the second screenshot, Ahmed. If you can read the second one.
You want Bereshit, that one?
Yes. Yes, Bereshit, okay. Exactly.
I can't read the Hebrew. Do you want me to just show it to you, or?
I'm sorry. Yeah, if you can just read what is said in the English beneath.
Okay. So right. Therefore, the well was called the well of the living one. That one.
Right. So it's exactly. So it's referencing the well, the place, specifically in verse 14, right? Now this is another rabbi. It says Rabbeinu Bachya ben Asher. He says exactly the same thing as Ibn Ezra in the Hebrew. He says that it's referring to a specific well that is called Zamzam in Mecca, where the Ishmaelites have their yearly or annual festivals, or Chagim, which is interestingly, by the way, etymologically related to the word Hajj. Chag, Hajj. Right, so he says the same thing as Ibn Ezra. Two rabbis, when they read verse 14 in Genesis chapter 16, they both, as well as other rabbis, by the way, but these are just two examples of rabbis, so no Muslims, but rabbis actually interpreting this as a reference to Mecca. Right, so this is very important. If you can go to Genesis chapter 24, verse 62, Ahmed, if you can read it.
Now Isaac had come from... Oh, okay. Now Isaac had come from Bir Lahai Ra'oi, for he was living in the Negev.
Exactly, so it's...
Mecca.
Exactly, that's the point. So it's talking about that very same place. Be'er Lahai Ra'oi. Right? It's talking about that very same place. Now, the same goes with regards to this specific verse. When you go and take a look at what the rabbis have to say, for example, Sadia Gaon, a great, prominent, one of the most prominent rabbis, in his famous Tafsir Rasag, which is an acronym, by the way. He says, with regards to Genesis chapter 24, verse 62, and I sent you the screenshot, Ahmed. It's the first one. So,
right.
If you can show it, perhaps, if you're able to show it, perhaps.
Sure. Give me 1 sec. There you go.
Exactly. Jazakallah khair. So I highlighted the relevant part in red, or I underlined rather, the relevant part in his famous commentary. This is the commentary of Sadia Gaon. He says, and I'm referencing specifically the underlined red part. He says, فهو مقيم في بلد القبلة في بلد القبلة. This is what he says, as a reference to what? To Mecca. فهو مقيم في بلد القبلة. This is what he says, literally. Again, this is not a Muslim. This is a Jew. A rabbi who again interprets that specific part, the well, Be'er Lachai Ro'i as a reference to Mecca. To Mecca.
That's insane.
And so this is a beautiful point to add onto the fact that what Ali just told you about the great nation and it being a reference to not just with regards to its quantity, meaning... Oh, sure, no problem. To its quantity, but also to its quality in the sense of its spirituality, etc., etc. Here we actually also find in the previous chapter when it talks about the birth of Ismail alayhi salam or Ishmael, that it's that rabbis, not just Muslims, but rabbis as well, rabbis that agree with us Muslims, that it's referencing repeatedly in Genesis chapter 16 verse 14 and in Genesis chapter 24 verse 62 as references to Mecca, to the well of Zamzam. That's what, again, rabbis like Ibn Ezra say, Rabbi Bachya ben Asher, as well as Rabbi Sadia Gaon. So this is also a beautiful point to add onto this, to make the argument stronger, to make the point stronger that it's referencing Islam, basically, by extension.
Oh, no, this is incredible.
Beautiful.
And Sadia, he was from the 9th century as well, after the advent of Islam. So he would have been first to write the Bible in Arabic, right? The Hebrew Bible in Arabic. That's what they say. He was a great scholar, a very learned scholar, like one of the greatest. And if he's addressing it like this, then what does that tell you? Do you know what I mean? He's someone not to be taken as a lightweight. He's a heavyweight scholar, according to many rabbis, right? So he obviously knows what he's talking about. And again, like you said, Akhi, it's so important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that they know him like they know their own sons. They know about him. They find him in their scriptures. Yet they play this concealing part. They like hiding stuff. Subhanallah, bro. This is incredible. Jazakallah khair. Beautiful.